what are the benefits of reflective parenting?
Well, there's a lot of benefits. And I'd say, well, let's talk about parents. Okay. Well, let's talk about the benefits for kids when their parents are reflective. Okay. So when parents are reflective, these are the benefits for kids. Parents who are reflective tend to be more calm, they're more able to control their own emotions, and therefore they tend to be able to be warmer, more understanding, more empathic, more supportive. And that's good for kids. When it comes to setting limits, they tend to do it in a calmer, more firm way rather than being aggressive about it or controlling. So that's what are the benefits for kids, is to have a parent who's like that. There's all these little sayings we have that, first you have to understand your child if you want them to understand you. First you have to listen to your child if you want them to listen to you. And so the benefits to children are when parents have these capacities to really understand where their child's coming from. So probably a little more, I don't want to be too abstract, so probably a little more specifically, the benefits to children are they do better physically, as I said before, physically, socially, emotionally, academically. We know that when parents are reflective, it's interesting, their children are better able to get along with peers. Actually, there was a great little, article in today's New York Times. They're going to have a children's section, a children's advice section.
Wow.
And they had written down what the advice was that this one child is offering other children for socially awkward moments. And what the child was saying was about being reflective. When children can realize, for example, that just because their friend didn't call them back, or just because their friend didn't play with them on the playground, or just because their friend didn't invite them to their birthday party, doesn't mean their friend doesn't like them, doesn't mean their friend, doesn't want to be friends with them anymore, or is a bad person. Teaching children that other children have minds, and whatever's going on between the two of you could be something going on with the other person. It may not be about you at all. Like maybe, the kid's parents you didn't get invited to the birthday party because the parents weren't going to have a birthday party, or they were going to be out of town, or whatever, that it could be something else. And when kids can be able to develop this reflectivity, they're going to get along better with peers. And so that's a big benefit for children. And when kids have parents who are reflective, they're more able to calm the child down, reassure the child, give the child a secure feeling. And this opens the child up to being more able to feel safe about exploring their environment, being creative. It even makes them more willing to trial and error, even if they fail, because they feel this base of their parents' reflectivity, understanding them and being connected to them. So that's the benefits for kids.
It's wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you.
Actually, in one of our parenting groups, one of the parents came in and told us that her son said, "Mom, you have to make sure you always go to that group because you're really improving." Kids really notice it, and they comment to their parents.
It's almost once it's felt and tasted.
Exactly.
Then
exactly.
They will ask.
That's a really good way of describing it. What we talk about is the felt experience of the child. A child can say, "Mommy, you don't understand, you don't understand, you don't understand." And the parent might say, "I do understand, I do understand." Well, if the child doesn't feel you understand, you have to keep working at trying to do something different. You can't just keep saying it from your point of view, right? So I think that's a really good point that we emphasize a lot. It's that felt experience.
It can be really bonding.
Yes, it's really bonding. Yes. That's how we feel known. That's how we feel known.
That's great that it is so beneficial to kids and parents. But earlier you said one of your motivations was to help parents.
Yes, yes.
So
yes.
what are the benefits?
So let me say this. The book, maybe can I show the book?
Please.
I love my beautiful book. This is my book.
Wonderful.
Yes, I think it's really, I love the cover.
I see the
yeah.
reflective.
Yeah, the reflection, yes. So I wrote this book because this is the book I needed when I was raising my kids. I mean, my kids are all grown up now, but when I was raising them and they were young, this is the book I needed. And it didn't exist. And it still doesn't exist. Well, I mean, I had to write it because parents these days need it as much as I did back then. So the benefits for parents are, and you know, throughout my talk with you today and throughout my book, I provide all these ways of reassuring parents. And so the benefits to parents are they feel less stressed and less overwhelmed. In fact, that's part of why I made the title the way it was. How to do less and relate more. Instead of driving yourself crazy, doing all these things with your child, fixing every problem, getting them every new gadget, driving them around all the time, to just make time to sit and connect and have a relationship. Just hang out, you know. So that's one of the benefits to parents. They feel more satisfied. They actually feel more confident about their parenting. They feel more like they're doing a good job. And that's a big benefit for parents.
I'm glad you did write the book.
Yes. Another benefit for parents, this is maybe a little odd way of saying it, but I'm always feeling like this. I want to give a parent an Oscar. And the Oscars I often want to give parents are Oscars for when they made it through a hard time. Which parents tend to look at having gone through like some difficult, you know, really challenging thing with their kid. And they look back on it and go, oh God, that was so hard. And what I want them to do is to pat themselves on the back and say, job well done. We made it through. And to get more enjoyment, not just out of the times you're having fun with your child, but to have enjoyment for having hung in there, worked with your child around some really difficulty and come through the other end. And to have more pleasure from that as well, even though it was hard.
Yeah.
So that's the benefit for parents.
So what brings about these benefits for parents?
I think the benefits for parents come, again, from some of the points that we really emphasize. One of them being, there's no one right way to parent. It's really hard for parents to believe that. You say, no, there's no one right way to parent. Oh, come on, they say. You know, there must be. You must really know what the right way is. And I say, no, there really is no one right way. There's really a lot of ways, all of which end up in a good place in the end. Some parents are just going to be a little more emotional. Some parents are going to be a little more tuned in, a little more demonstrative. Other parents are going to be a little more reserved, a little more, you know, detached, or a little more expecting the child to do things on their own, not be so, you know, helping their child out. And so different parents are going to have different styles, and that's going to be okay. We know children are highly adaptive. What children can't handle are the extremes. They can't handle extreme harshness, hostility, aggression, neglect. They can't handle it when the parent is like too over-involved. But somewhere beyond the, you know, within those extremes, you know, keeping those, staying out of the ditch, so to speak, the research shows that kids will end up doing okay with a whole variety of ways of parenting. Too many parents these days are walking around feeling like they're on some narrow cliff, and if they make one false move, you know, they're on some like narrow cliff, and like, you know, there's a big drop below, and if they make one false move, it's all over. They ruin their kid for life, or they've been a bad parent. It's not like that. It's actually a very wide path. Meander this way, meander that way. And that's where the benefits come from for parents. The other thing is what builds confidence in a parent is giving the parent the feeling that you really believe they can come up with their own answers. There's a lot of research, a lot of research that shows that when parents actually feel more confident about their parenting, kids do better. So how are we going to help parents feel more confident? So what I say is, and today's parents, where are they getting their parenting knowledge? Online. Everybody's Googling it. Well, we're all Googling everything. But so parents are looking online for, how to parent. They're looking to the experts, and they're getting lots of information. The dilemma is a lot of times parents, find information and it doesn't feel like it fits with who their kid is or who they are. But what I'm always encouraging parents is, since there's no one right way, probably the best way is, and really what your child wants, is for you to come up with a way you really believe in. So I tell parents, get all the information you want. Get it wherever you want to get it from. But once you have that all that information, you have to pick and choose what makes the most sense to you. And simplistically, we might say to a parent, you're the expert on your child. And each parent-child relationship is unique. So it's okay for you to come up with a way of dealing with a situation according to what makes the most sense for you about your child, but also about who you are. I was one of these parents that I didn't care if my kids woke me up early in the morning because I'm an early riser. I was often up before they were up. Another parent might care about that a lot and need to sleep in. And so their children have to learn, you don't knock on mommy and daddy's door until 7 or whatever it is. And so every parent parents in the way that suits also what their family circumstances are, not just who they are, but who their child is.
It seems like there's this moment-to-moment opportunity to reflective matches.
Yes.
It's a meeting place.
Yes. Well, in a way, it's a meeting place where we often don't meet,
Right.
and then come back to meeting. And it's when we come back to meeting that feels so good. Right? It doesn't feel good when we're in disjunction. But being reflective enables us to come back to a meeting place. Yeah, to get back in a feeling like, oh, you get me and I get you. Another thing, though, is I really encourage parents to understand their child, but not to always expect their child to understand them. And I never blame parents, but there's a lot of parents who never had anybody really understand them as a child. And so they're searching and yearning for someone to understand them. And they sometimes expect their child to understand them. Can't you understand that I had a hard day at work, or I don't have enough money for buying you that new computer you want, or whatever it is. And children can sort of understand some of these things in an age-appropriate way. But a lot of times parents are expecting way too much in terms of the child understanding the parent's situation. And really, it's too big a responsibility. And so it's a little, I tell parents, I'm sorry, it's a little unfair. You have to do more of the understanding than they have to do.
I see.
They can only understand it in a little child way sometimes.
I see.
So there's no right formula, there's no one size fits all, and you don't have to be perfect. And those are 3 reassuring things to parents are where the benefits come from. So I know earlier you asked me, why do we make mistakes and conflicts? And a lot of people think mistakes and conflicts are like an impediment. Like we should get rid of them. We should try to avoid them. And, well, first of all, we can't avoid them. They're natural, common, and inevitable. We're going to make mistakes, be off base, and have conflict. It turns out that the more we can accept this, the less stressed we are about it, the calmer we remain, the more reflective we remain. And so, for example, if you're a person who thinks, oh, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, they didn't fully understand me, and we have to end the relationship, or we got into a fight, we have to end the relationship. That's not a good thing. we want people to accept that misunderstanding and conflict is normal, and it can get worked out. If you bother to be reflective, you can work it out. So one of the things I am always encouraging parents is to stay calm, even though there's some terrible misunderstanding or conflict going on. Hold out the hope that you'll be able to resolve it. Be optimistic about that you will be able to find a way. And also that it's great, you used the word before, opportunity. It's a great opportunity to give to your child. Why is that? Because when you are clarifying a misunderstanding or you're helping to resolve a conflict, what your child is learning is everyone's different. Other people think differently than I do. They have their own perspective on the world. That's an amazing lesson to teach your child. And so you can only teach it to a child when you have a disjunction.
I see.
And then come back to that meeting place, like you said. Yeah. So, and I think I said this before, another thing is it helps parents be less defensive when you reassure them this way. One of my favorite statistics is that all healthy families are in sync about a third of the time. And they're out of sync about a third of the time. And the other third of the time, they're working to get back in sync again. So we fluidly move in and out of being in sync and out of sync, of getting along and not getting along. And the more we're aware of that fluidity, that natural fluidity, it helps us be less tense about it, less panicked about it. We know that when people are too stressed about being stressed, when people don't realize stress is a normal part of life and they get too stressed about being stressed, oh, I shouldn't be this stressed, they get more stressed. So there's a lot of benefit to just recognizing all this stressful stuff, and relationships are messy. It's not a neat house. It's a messy house. That's just how relationships are. And it's okay to embrace the mess a little bit. Be okay with it, you know.
Are there any other benefits? It seems like reflectiveness is a way in and the way out.
Yes, well, I hope you've picked up, well, it seems like you have, that being reflective is not just about parents and children. It's about the ideas and concepts and tools of being reflective are universal to all relationships. And so what I find in families when parents are learning how to be reflective, it often helps to strengthen the whole family, because the one parent goes home and talks to their spouse about it and educates their spouse about being reflective. Or better still, the parent starts to relate to the other spouse in a reflective way, right? You know, let's say you have a spouse who tends to be a little on the critical side, and you feel hurt and rejected and wounded and, you know, all this stuff with all those criticisms. Well, you know, okay, that makes sense. That's understandable. But you might understand where your spouse is coming. Why are they such a critical person? And the more you can also understand their perspective, where they're coming from, it helps you often be more relaxed about it. And that's such a benefit to a relationship. I even had one teen parent who was in a reflective parenting group, and she told us that her mom helped her out a lot. And so she taught her mom about reflective parenting. And her mom said, oh my God, I never treated you that way. I'm so sorry. But it really sounds good. And so then she was incorporating that in dealing with her granddaughter. I even had one parent who said, is it okay for me to use this with my coworkers? Yes, of course it is. I mean, this capacity to understand that there's your perspective and there's the other person's perspective. That your perspective is valid for you, but you know, the other person's perspective is valid for them. And the more we can do that, we don't have to always agree, but the more we can understand the other person's perspective is valid for them, it brings a lot of the tension and the animosity out of the relationship. A lot of the name calling and judgment. I really emphasize this a lot with parents. Is stop being so judgmental of other parents. You know, take a breath. You see some parent doing something, you think, oh my God, that's terrible. How could they be doing that with their child? You know, parents are doing that all the time. And it would be nice if more parents would think, they might have their reasons. Maybe there's a reason why they're behaving that way. Maybe they can't control their child. Maybe because maybe the child is on the autistic spectrum for one thing, or some other reason. And so that we'd be less judgmental of people, just in general.
It seems like once we get access to our reflective capacities, there's a lot of room to grow.
There's a lot of room to grow, yes.
Bring it to the community.
Yes. And I have grown from learning this, really. I mean, I've grown as a person in using this, and I use this with, well, now my children are grown, and I use this with my grown children. It's really, once a parent, always a parent. You never stop being a parent, and you never stop needing to be reflective. And it's really helpful in groups of people, understanding how group dynamics are working. So yes, there's a lot of room for growth. I'm a much more open-minded person, I think, now because of having been so steeped in this reflective process. Yeah.